Welcome back, and once again we put the spotlight on the big breaking news that is coming in from the aviation sector. Massive setback to the SpiceJet Airline in a mega crackdown on the SpiceJet. The DGCA, aviation regulator, has confirmed that 50% of the SpiceJet flights to remain grounded for the next 8 weeks. Remember, this comes amid utmost safety concerns of the passengers amid a spate of incidents of the mid-air emergency and divergence being reported. Now, remember this in view of the findings of the various spot checks, inspections and the reply to the show cause notice that was submitted by the SpiceJet. The number of departures of SpiceJet is restricted to 50% of the number of the departures approved under the summer schedule 2022 for 8 weeks from the date of the issue of this order as per the DGCA. So this is the latest that we're picking up in terms of the crackdown on the airline. This, remember, at a time and again, in fact, Mirror Now has also been reporting on several incidents of mid-air emergency divergence. And in fact, for more than a while now, SpiceJet has been at the center of this controversy, where several pertinent questions were raised over the operations of the airline, over enough number of safety checks not being conducted. And now the latest is that the DGCA has confirmed that 50% of the SpiceJet air flights to remain grounded in order to ensure that all the checks and all the inspection in connection with the passenger safety is conducted. And on this note, I'm being joined by aviation expert Vipul Saxena on the broadcast. Sir, a very big news coming in from the world of aviation. What's your take on this entire development? 50% of the SpiceJet flights grounded. Do you think this was the much needed step that has finally been taken?
The financial audit report was of 2021 October. It's going to be another, 1 year gap. I think this action should have been taken at that time. And now is the time when the AOC of the airline should have been suspended. Nothing less than that. Because what is the guarantee? Who has given the guarantee? Has airline given any kind of financial viability report to the DGCA, based on which DGCA has come out with this sanction of 50% flight? So I really don't understand on what basis this restriction has been put. So I would still call it a much lesser action than what should have been done.
All right. Sir, do you think somewhere this will help in any way, in order to ensure the smooth movement of the flight henceforth? Do you think this step will somewhere sort of, come across as a big blow to the airline, where, actually measures are taken to amend the failures?
Ma'am, let's be very clear. Flight safety either exists or does not exist. There is no compromise. These aircrafts are flying in the air, taking risk of so many lives. So there is no barometer, there is no meter which can say how much risk has been reduced. Okay, unless there is a deep scrutiny done and deep data analysis has been done, based on which this kind of decision can be taken. I don't think any of this kind of thing has been done by the airline, on which the DGCA arbitrarily decided to reduce 50% flights. Because if that was the case, DGCA would have taken this action in the month of October, November 2021 itself. So I don't subscribe, I don't support this action of DGCA. It should have been definitely not less than suspension of AOC till the airline proves that they are financially viable to operate the airlines with the complete safety of passengers and also the aircraft.
All right, Vipul Saxena, aviation expert, thank you so much for joining us with your perspective on the story. And in fact, I'm also being joined by another aviation expert, Mr. Dheeraj Mathur, on the broadcast. Sir, I was just speaking to one of your colleagues, aviation expert Vipul Saxena, who in fact went on to call this action by the aviation regulator as quote-unquote mild action. What do you have to say on that? Do you think that this is not a strong enough action in order to wrap the airline so that the amends are made?
Well, I think this is probably the first time that DGCA has issued such an order and taken such an action. So one can argue that was this enough? Need they have suspended the AOC altogether? I don't think so, because yes, SpiceJet has been going through a bad patch. They have been, they've had severe financial problems. They've got some employee issues as well. And certainly the end result of that has been that maintenance has been compromised and therefore passenger safety. Now, I think in the first instance, instead of a complete shutdown, I think cutting back on flights, and this is what I've been saying, not just for SpiceJet, but the other airlines as well, that there are issues if airlines are not able to properly and adequately maintain their aircraft, they need to cut back on their flights. And that's what the DGCA has asked SpiceJet to do, and reduce it by 50% over a 3-month period, a 2-month period, 8 weeks. And during which it will have to prove that it is capable of maintaining standards, safety standards, and so on. Because, setting up an airline it's not like setting up a tea stall, right? This is a serious business. Huge capex, razor-thin margins, and all the problems that airlines face in India. Highest ATF in the world. Everyone in the aviation sector, in the entire value chain, except for the airlines, makes money. The airlines are the only ones who lose. The airport operators make money. The ground handling companies make money. The aviation, the fuel oil companies make money. Everyone except for the airlines makes money. And that's because the airlines pays everybody. So let's understand one thing. Running an airlines business in this country is not easy. And it hasn't been easy ever. A lot of things have been done by the government in the last 10 years or so to address many of the issues. We have a very underserved market. Less than 4% of our population, less than 4% of our population flies, as against the US, where I think almost 4 times the population flies. So we have a huge unmet demand. We need infrastructure. And so the airlines, you can't just keep writing off, shutting down airlines just like that. Definitely, you need to send a strong message, because there can be no compromise on passenger safety. And what the DGCA order has in effect said is that if you can't service the aircraft that you are licensed to operate, then you don't fly all of them. You only fly those that you can service. That's what it says. In essence, whether it's 50% or 60% or 40%, that's not the issue. So I'm sure DGCA has a basis for arriving at the number of 50%. So I do not agree that you shut down SpiceJet. Certainly, you've given them a notice, you've told them to cut back, and you've given them time to, they're going to be under increased surveillance and supervision. Let the airlines prove that it is in a position to operate its aircraft, to operate the license that it has.
All right.
And you're giving them 2 months. That's fine. That's fair.
All right, Mr. Dheeraj Mathur, appreciate you joining us with your perspective on this big story. And now I would like to go across to my colleague, Madhav, who is an expert in covering the aviation sector. Madhav, please take us through the DGCA's order. What exactly is this order, if you could just elucidate for the, the betterment of our viewers?
Over 3 weeks ago, the DGCA had in fact issued a show cause notice to SpiceJet, and they had very clearly mentioned a couple of observations there. They had said that on a number of occasions the aircraft had turned back to its originating station or continued landing to the destination with degraded safety margins. There's poor internal safety oversight and inadequate maintenance actions which have resulted in degradation of safety margins. Financial assessment carried out by DGCA in September last year revealed SpiceJet's operating on cash and carry, and suppliers approved vendors are not being paid on regular basis, leading to shortage of spares and frequent invoking of MELs. Now, going further, in fact, SpiceJet had responded to the show cause notice, and after receiving the show cause notice, in fact, the DGCA has said that they have considered the following and have in fact gone ahead and decided that the number of departures of Messrs SpiceJet are hereby restricted to 50% of the number of departures approved under the summer schedule of 2022 for a period of 8 weeks from the date of issue of this order. Now, they've also gone on to say that any increase in the number of departures beyond 50% of the number of departures approved in the summer schedule 2022 shall be subject to the airline demonstrating to the satisfaction of DGCA that it is sufficient technical support and financial resource to safely and efficiently undertake such enhanced capacity. During these 8 weeks period, the airline shall be subjected to enhanced surveillance by the DGCA. So this is very, very significant. On the one hand, there will be enhanced surveillance. Already we have seen how there have been surveys that have been done as far as different airlines that have been completed, audits that have been done on different airlines. At the same time, we're going to be looking at DGCA monitoring SpiceJet's aircraft much more closely, and if they have to increase their operational capacity beyond this 50% level, they will have to demonstrate that they have the finances and the technical know-how to actually do that. So this is a very, very big step. Now, we have seen similar actions only being taken in the case of other airlines when they had faced huge financial difficulties. For instance, Kingfisher, and also in the case of Jet Airways. Is SpiceJet headed that way? While the airline has been saying that it's looking at a huge infusion of cash in days to come, what really will happen as far as the airline is concerned remains to be seen, given that the aviation regulator has massively taken this big action as far as this airline is concerned. They have obviously demonstrated that there are safety issues with the airline, and the financial issues also at some level have been impacting on that. The very fact that cash and carry that the airline has been on since the middle of last year has led to a degradation of safety margins. In some cases, even spares and their supplies have in fact been affected, and therefore DGCA going ahead and taking this particular action. Now, this is also in the wake of a series of air turnarounds that have been seen, while DGCA says at one level that this is part of a robust safety mechanism. In the case of SpiceJet, they have said that this will require a curtailing of the schedules for the moment, and once they're able to convince the DGCA that they have adequate resources and technical know-how to go ahead and actually implement all of this on ground, maybe in that case the airline schedule can be increased from 50%.